Well, welcome back to True News. I'm Rick Wiles. Many American patriots are alarmed over the overreaching power grab of Barack Hussein Obama. In addition to the appointment of czars and snubbing his nose at Senate ratification of his nominees to head federal agencies and the signing of the defense bill that authorizes U.S. troops to arrest and detain American citizens, Mr. Obama has also declared more FEMA emergencies than any other president. Reporter Candice Lanier is on the telephone. She is a reporter for Liberty News Network and a contributing writer for Human Events, and she recently published an article for Human Events entitled, "Does the President Have Too Much Power Through FEMA?" Candice, welcome to True News.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about what you found, because when I looked at this article, and I tell you what was the most shocking thing to me, and that's the chart, FEMA declarations by year and by presidential administration. The numbers don't lie. Okay, I mean, when you look at this chart, it is staggering. So let's talk about these presidential declarations. What does your article cover? Is it just natural disasters, or are there other declarations that you were looking at?
Well, there are actually two different kinds of declarations. Well, there are more than two, but this article covers two of the most declared. One is just an emergency that covers lesser storms and disasters, and then the other is major disaster. So, in brief, the difference between the two is that an emergency, there doesn't have to be any causal, it doesn't matter what the cause is in terms of whether the funds can be released or not.
Mm-hmm.
With a major disaster, it's any catastrophe, any natural catastrophe, regardless of cause, any fire, flood, or explosion. So that's how it's defined.
All right. Now, when we hear that the president declared a region a federal disaster area, what does that exactly mean?
Well, it can be either a major disaster or an emergency. And that's the other thing that I'm finding when I looked at FEMA's website. There's just a lot of vague information. The way things are worded, almost anything could be considered, a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, already in 2012, we've had 5 declarations. And I don't know if anyone can think of any instance.
Oh, wait a minute. In 2012, this is February. You've already had 12? Or 5?
No, in 2012, we've had 5.
We've had 5. And
right.
We're only in the first week of February. What were these 5 emergencies or disasters?
A severe storm in Alaska, another severe storm in Utah, 2 places you would expect to have severe storms. A severe storm in Alabama, tornadoes, a fire in Nevada, and a severe storm and snowstorm in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things that you would normally expect, in January and February.
Right. Okay, so we've got presidential declared emergencies and presidential declared disasters. New Orleans, after Katrina, you actually had both, I would assume. You had a disaster and you had an emergency.
Right. That was actually declared, though, as a major. So.
But President Bush sent troops to New Orleans, and actually the military ran the city for a while.
That's true, and they have up to 10 days to do that. That's another type of declaration that they can declare, a defense declaration.
Mm-hmm. And that's when troops were going door to door, confiscating guns from the homeowners who were still there.
Right. It's called a defense emergency, and they have up to 10 days to carry out. And this is also vaguely worded, to carry out emergency work for a period not to exceed 10 days. So It doesn't.
And
go into a lot of detail.
Didn't a federal judge later rule that that was an unconstitutional act when the troops confiscated guns?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Looking at your chart, it looks like things really started to go off the chart when Bill Clinton got in the White House.
That's exactly when. It was 1996. Some comparisons here. The total number, let's see, the number of major disaster declarations, 99 versus 75. That was a record set in 96. Now, Obama, the total number of FEMA declarations, 242 versus 158, set in 1990, or set in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So he was off to a bad start. His first year he was already setting records.
Yeah, so total for Bill Clinton, 1996, he had a total of 158 of these declarations. Mr. Obama in 2011, 242.
Right.
And to put this in perspective, we could go back, President Lyndon Johnson, 1966, 11. President Eisenhower, 1959, 7. We're now up to 242 per year.
Exactly. So, and for 2011, 242, 2010, 115.
Candice, is this dramatic increase in these presidential declarations of emergencies or disasters, is it because the presidency is grabbing too much power, or is it the result of an increase in natural disasters and emergencies?
Well, there has not been an increase in natural disasters at all.
You don't think so?
So, no, there hasn't. And I'm basing the information on research that the Heritage Foundation did, and they found, no major disasters. They even pointed out the average American probably couldn't point out any that have occurred. Major, there have been a couple, but not enough to warrant the number of declarations that this administration has made.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are there, when FEMA shows up, what happens in addition to confusion?
I didn't really research what happens when they show up. I studied more up to that point, like how the funds are released, what's required to get the release of funds to the state, and what the state has to do. So, it does appear that there's a lot of mass confusion. But one thing that Heritage suggests, both for fiscal restraint and to decrease the confusion, is to turn much of this over to state and local government. And another good suggestion is use corporations. Walmart has responded very well to disasters. They're quick, and they do a good job. So that's another alternative.
Yeah, it's funny. Just a couple of days ago, on a weekend, I was reading some historical material, and I was reading something about President Grover Cleveland, and this, he served 2 different terms, but they weren't consecutive. So I don't know if this was his first term in the 1880s or, again, his second term in the 1890s. But anyhow, he vetoed a congressionally passed bill to provide some financial relief. I think it was to farmers because of natural disaster. It could have been flooding or something. I don't recall what it was. And he vetoed it, and he said that he feared that if he allowed this federal money to be used in this disaster, that it would set the precedent that eventually would erode the independence of the American people and cause them to, over time, become dependent on Washington.
Wow, that's quite prophetic.
Yeah, here we are. And 2011, 2012, the public can't, we're deep in debt, trillions of dollars, and the public says, we know, but we still want more money. And when you talk about cutting off funds, everybody gets upset, but the country's broke. Hey, how do you feel about, have you, in your research, have you looked into any of the FEMA facilities that are being constructed for the detention of citizens?
Not in depth, and that's something I do plan on looking into because I get a lot of requests on that. Yeah, lots of requests, just, across social media and email and such. So it would be an interesting topic to explore. Yeah,
there's obviously something being done. I mean, these contracts are being handed out to Halliburton and other corporations to construct these facilities, and it makes you wonder what they are expecting to happen. Because some of these requests for bids talk about the relocation of urban populations and some other very disturbing trends. So, well, listen, hey, we'll stay in touch with you, and thank you. Appreciate you stopping by today here on True News.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. Candice Lanier, Human Events.